We succeeded in landing without any problems, and when we released the lock, the canopy was opened from the outside. Ageha and the others greeted us with smiles so wide that they made me feel ill.
おかえり、お二人さん。おかえりなさい、先輩。おかえりなさい。
Ugh.
さあ、朝ちゃん、夜ちゃん、小鳥ちゃんを下ろすのを手伝って。はーい。
Kotori, who came down from the cockpit and sat in her wheelchair, was blushing deeply and had an unhappy expression on her face.
そんなに警戒しなさんなって。別に冷やかしたりしないから。そうしてもらえるとありがたいわ。私、今、恥ずかしすぎて死にそうだから。
You don't need to be.
葵先輩、お疲れ様です。いろいろとお疲れ様。
You're going to make fun of me, aren't you? Asa's eyes sparkled like those of a heroine from a comic book, and a smile crept onto Yoru's mouth. When I blushed, my cheek was slapped from behind.
やるじゃないか。
Even you, Anchan?
なかなかかっこよかったぞ。
Look. Being told that by Anchan made me feel bashful, but also happy.
で、どうだった？この子の感触は。
Like I told you over the radio, it's a little pitchy, but it's easy to pilot once you get used to it. The feeling of gliding was smooth too. The sink rate was low, and compared to the other model, it seems like it will be able to stay in the air for longer.
なるほどなるほど。調整は？
It doesn't need anything right now.
そう。破損とか歪みがないかチェックするわ。接続部も見るから。悪いけどコックピット座って。
Okay. We have to check whether there was damage to the parts during the first flight a moment ago. We will still fly it several more times today. I met eyes with Kotori for just an instant and then headed toward the cockpit.
小鳥？何？やったね。
Ageha, I'm ready over here. From a distance away, Kotori watched blankly as we did our preparations for the next test flight. The improved glider's test flight had been a success, in more ways than one. While it did need minor adjustments, there were no large issues. In taking breaks, flights, we flew until the sunset. In that time, Asa, Yoru and Ageha also got to ride. Asa seemed extremely pleased and was very moved by the scenery she saw from the sky. Flying with wings that we made gave us something more than just flying. After the test flight, Ageha came with us back to the dorms, and we had a meeting to review the day while eating dinner. It actually turned into a meeting full of self-praise, where we said our glider is the best, and talked about how exciting flying had been. Afterward, I cleaned up the area. Ageha came into the dining room while drying her hair with a bath towel. She sat in front of the fan, turned it all the way up, and put her face near it. Has everyone already taken a bath? She hasn't? What is she doing anyway? Maybe we should go and keep her company, hmm? During dinner, Kotori hadn't spoken much. It seemed like she was silent because she didn't want to be made fun of regarding everything with me. And what's more, she hadn't spoken for the past few days, so perhaps she had forgotten how to talk to everyone. After I finished cleaning up, Ageha looks at me with a face that says, I know you want to go. I act oblivious and wash the dishes. Hmm?
小鳥が彼女に昇格して、私が一番の親友に繰り上がりってこと。
Who says that your girlfriend can't also be your best friend? Actually, I feel like we've had this conversation before.
けど、本当に付き合っちゃうとはね。
What? Is there a problem?
いいっていうか、ようやくって感じ？ねえねえ、いつから小鳥のこと好きだったの？
Since day one, Ageha bends forward like an old lady who loves gossip. I don't know.
わからんって。
It just kind of happened. I wonder when it was that I realized, when I came to like her as more than a friend. But even then, I wasn't thinking about her in that way. We were together every day and we were so close that Ageha called us best friends. I didn't need to ask for anything more. Maybe I actually began to think about it when Kotori received that love letter. Seeing Kotori get all flustered from receiving that love letter from someone she hadn't even met, I became unsettled in spite of myself. I thought that maybe Kotori would go away. Thinking about it was heartbreaking. That's when I realized that I liked Kotori.
まあ、しゃあないか。もしそういう関係になってなかったとしても、一番の親友だった女の子だもんね。その好きがどの好きか、結構ごっちゃになっちゃうかも。
Yeah, something like that. Ageha opened the fridge and took out a bottle of cider that she had been chilling. Then she drank half of it at once.
やっぱ風呂上がりはこれに限るわ。
So you aren't bothered by this?
何が？
By Kotori and me dating.
何それ？やきもち焼くかってこと？
No, not that. I mean, like, sometimes it happens, you know? Things get awkward or whatever.
それはその時になってみないとわからないけど。でも、私嬉しいよ。葵と小鳥が付き合ってくれて。
Are you really?
二人のことは親友だし、大好きだもん。大好きな人同士がくっついてくれて嬉しいよ。
She says this nonchalantly.
まあ、やきもち焼かないかって言われると、実はあんまし自信はないんだけど。でもさ、小鳥って危なっかしいじゃん？見てて心配になるっていうかさ。けど、葵ならあの子のこと幸せにしてくれそうなんだもん。
Ageha.
なんつってな。ちょっとかっこつけちまったぜ。
Ageha spoke jokingly and then finished the rest of her cider. Then she picked up the remote and turned on the TV.
お、始まってる。
The variety TV show that Ageha watches every week had already begun. Ageha took a chair, turned it backwards, and started watching TV while holding the back of the seat. I finished washing the dishes, turned off the water, and wiped off my hands. Alright, I guess I'll take my bath.
いってらっしゃい。
Ageha spoke while facing the TV.
しばらく邪魔しないであげるから、頑張ってね。
You didn't have to say that. I murmured this as I left the dining room. Hey, Kotori! Kotori, are you there?
わー。
Head poked his head through his special door. Where's your partner inside?
わわ。
I don't understand, but it seems she isn't there. Maybe she's in the bath. I wonder where she went. I thought maybe she went into the bath, but I don't hear anything from the bathroom. I wonder if she's in Asa's room. But Kotori is in a wheelchair, so she can't go to the second floor by herself. When she talks to people who live on the second floor, it's usually in the dining room or in her own room. I wonder if she went out.
心配しないで。毎日楽しくやってるよ。友達もいっぱいいるし、それに今日ね。やっぱりなんでもない。
Kotori! I put my hands on Kotori's shoulders from behind and spoke into her ear, and she jumped up in her wheelchair like a cat and gave a shriek. In doing so, she almost dropped the cell phone she was holding. Wait, cell phone?
なんでもないの。ちょっとバカなアヒルにいたずらされただけ。ほんと困るのよね。バカでさ。
Who are you calling a stupid duck? She scolds at me and I mouth, I'm sorry. From behind, the cell phone was hidden in her hair. I couldn't see it. I thought she'd be staring at the stars, basking in a sentimental feeling.
わかった。 じゃあ待ってるね。おやすみ。
Kotori spoke in a gentle tone she doesn't even use for us, and then hung up the phone. I'm sorry.
もう急に変な声出しちゃったからお父さんに本気で心配されちゃったじゃない。
No, so she was talking to her father. You were on the phone with your family, huh?
久しぶりに声聞きたくなって。それでね、お盆の間だけ実家に帰ることにしたの。
Really?
心配かけてばかりだし、今幸せなんだってことちゃんと報告しときたくて。
I see. Was your dad happy?
すごく嬉しそうだった。だけど
But?
明日の朝迎えに来るって。
What?
お父さんが車で迎えに来るの、明日の朝に。
Your dad doesn't waste any time at all, does he? Coming the morning after a phone call must really mean he wanted to see Kotori.
だからしばらく会えなくなっちゃう。せっかくそのお付き合いを始めたのに。
Yeah, that's true. I guess it can't be helped. Kotori really seemed sorry, but it wouldn't be right to stop her from going. Why do you look so uneasy?
だってうちに泊まるの久しぶりだし、それに。
Kotori slowly cast her eyes downward. I heard a little bit from Hibari about why you left your house. It was really painful, wasn't it, being with your family? Watching her parents, who were engulfed in sadness, thinking that she was the cause of it and blaming herself. It must have been so hard. Kotori nodded silently, perhaps thinking back to that time. But things are different now, right? A moment ago, your voice sounded so gentle.
あの頃はね、お父さんもお母さんもいつも悲しそうにしてた。まるで私の人生がもう終わっちゃったみたいに。ただ足が動かなくなっちゃっただけなのにね。私が事故に遭ったのは自分たちのせいだって思ってて、私に向かって言うのよ。ごめんね、ごめんねって。私は心の中でいつも自分を責めてた。家族をむちゃくちゃにしてしまったのは私なんだって。そんなのがずっと続いて、もう耐えられなくて、それで家を出ようと思ったの。
It must have taken a huge amount of courage for a girl who can't walk to decide to leave her house. But that means it was painful enough to make her decide something like that.
家族から逃げたかったんだけど、それだけじゃなかったわ。私はまだ生きてるし、人生が台無しになったわけじゃない。それを確かめたくて。
That's why you came to Keifu Academy? Kotori nods.
慶風学園なら完全バリアフリーだし、学生寮もある。東京の実家から車で3時間ほどで来られるでしょ。お父さんも何かあったらすぐ駆けつけられるってそう思ったみたい。説得するにはここがぴったりだったの。工学系に興味があるって嘘をついたんだけど、実際はさっぱり興味なかったから、入学してからえらく苦労したわ。
And that's why. When I transferred to the school, Kotori was at the top of her class for general studies, but for specialized studies she was near the bottom. After she entered the soaring club, that changed, but it's amazing you could convince your parents like that.
私でも手に職をつけられるかもって思ったみたい。どのみちバリアフリーの学校を選ばなきゃいけないから、他に選択肢も少なかったし、それにひばり姉も援護してくれたの。
I see.
そんな理由で選んだ慶風学園だったけど、今はすごく楽しいし、友達がいて、やりたいこともあって、彼氏もできたから。
Kotori said this part nervously and grabbed my shirt collar.
ここに来てよかった。
Thank you for coming here. I said this and then rubbed Kotori's head softly. Her hair was glossy and felt so good with the touch. Kotori narrowed her eyes as though it tickled, and then she blushed. And you were finally able to ride in the glider too. Kotori suddenly became happy and raised her face. How was your first flight?
最高に気持ちよかった。
Kotori's eyes sparkled as she spoke. It was almost like she was reporting the fun events of her day to a parent.
空を飛ぶのってあんなに気持ちがいいのね。
It feels even more amazing when you fly it yourself.
だと思うわ。
We haven't begun making Kotori's cockpit yet. We had decided to begin after the glider's body was finished. Kotori rubbed her temples as though she were thinking of a plan. What's wrong?
今日は嬉しいことが一度にいっぱいありすぎて、わーってなって、なんかもうわけがわかんない。グライダーに初めて乗って、それだけでも人生の絶頂みたいに幸せだったのに、あんなところで告白なんてするんだもん。
I thought it was the best time to tell you.
きっと最高だった。10年経っても20年経っても思い出すと思う。今日のこと。
Then it was a success. I smiled a bit jokingly and Kotori made a serious face and looked up at me.
一応確認だけど、葵くん、本気なの？
Huh? About what?
私のこと、本気で、
Like you? Kotori put her hand on her chest as though she'd taken damage. What is it? Do you doubt me?
そうじゃないけど、いまいち自信が持てない。葵くんみたいなかっこいい男の子の恋愛対象に自分がなれるなんておかしいもん。世界七不思議って感じ。
Hey, why don't you try saying that after looking in the mirror? She doesn't realize how cute she is. Weren't you calling yourself a beautiful girl a while ago?
そうだけど、美少女ですけど、でもこんな体だもん。
What are you talking about? You're pretty attractive.
葵くん優しいから、私のことかわいそうだって思ってくれて、それで。
I really like you, Kotori. You're cute. You think of your friends, and somehow I feel calm when I'm with you.
そうかな。でも、よく性格悪いって言われるよ。
Yeah, I think that's cute too.
嬉しくない。
But what about you? Do you really like me? I figured it was a good time to ask.
好きに決まってるでしょ。バカじゃないの？
She answered as though my asking were totally strange.
だって葵くんかっこいいし、優しいし、料理も上手で、ちょっと意地悪で、それで。
She lists off my good qualities one after another. There were a few things that didn't sound so nice, but anyway. Alright, I understand. Quit saying such embarrassing things.
わかったでしょ？葵くんがどんなに素敵な男の子か。
It seemed like she wanted to say, I told you so.
そんな素敵な葵くんが私のこと好きだなんて、なんか変な気がする。
She spoke with no confidence, hanging her head. She's awfully stubborn, acting like this despite all I've said. So what will happen from now? Kotori lifted her head, and I put my lips on hers. I had taken Kotori by surprise. Her eyes were wide open. I put my hand on the armrest of Kotori's wheelchair, leaned forward, and kissed her harder. With a start, Kotori rested her head on mine, which was still on her armrest. And then she squeezed it hard. Her hand was shaking slightly. Kotori, I love you. I whispered this while our lips were still touching. Then I pressed my lips onto hers again while stroking her hair. Kotori closed her eyes. She relaxed her body and enjoyed the moment. Kotori's lips are so soft. I felt pulled toward her lips, and even as I kissed her and she kissed back, they were so soft. They were so lustrous and sweet. Our lips separated, and she called my name. Through her slightly opened eyelids, her teary eyes, slightly twinkling in the moonlight, met mine. I asked again while stroking her hair. Now you understand how I feel, right? I guess there's no choice then. I spoke softly, taking my hand off of Kotori's hair and pulling her in for another kiss. Kotori looked up, shut her eyes, and abandoned herself to the kiss. I wonder how long that went on for. The wind blew, brushing Kotori's hair against my cheeks with a tickling feeling. I put my hands on Kotori's shoulders and slowly took my lips from hers. Our kiss ended, and Kotori looked at me blankly. It was like her soul had left her body and she was sitting limp on her wheelchair. Does that tell you my feelings? Kotori, still with a blank expression, nodded her head. You're so spoiled, Kotori. I spoke in an it-can't-be-helped kind of way and then lightly kissed Kotori's forehead. Okay, that's it for today. Alright, here's a bonus. I kneeled down and hugged Kotori. As Kotori is sitting in a wheelchair, hugging her is a difficult undertaking. Kotori sighed into my ear contentedly. Alright, how's that service? Kotori nodded and then looked away shyly. Alright, let's go back. You haven't taken your bath yet, right? Kotori suddenly went red and became flustered. No, not like that! I wasn't saying we should take a bath together, although I totally wouldn't mind that. But if you insist, I said as a joke. She stared at me with those desperate, yearning eyes. Perhaps next time. And for the rest of the trip, I pushed the awfully cute and honest Kotori along as we made it back to the dorms. Morning! Next time on If My Heart Had Wings. Thanks for watching and have a nice day. Bye bye!